Welcome to RPrep's fourth stream. In a shift scenario where many people will gather in a stressful situation, how will you deal with internal conflicts? Let's discuss. We already have someone. Muffin Man, how are you this evening?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
Wonderful. So, have you run into a situation at a team group where you've had to resolve situations and conflicts between other people on your team?
Well, yeah, pastor in a church. I mean, that's pretty much what you deal with is conflict resolution with people. Did the same in anti-terrorism and quite a bit of the same in EMS. So it's just kind of you have to deal with people no matter where you're at. Um, but I think the trouble is, a lot of our conversation today is going to revolve around people's personalities and how personalities and personality types clash. Um, and I think this is especially true when you get multiple type A personality people in the same kind of vicinity is you're going to find somebody that's going to want to be in charge or what have you. And even when they're not, they've got to learn to be okay with that. But I think a lot of times, most often, when we've got some kind of dispute or discrepancy between people, like say, for example, if you or I had an issue with each other, where maybe I didn't like your mohawk, or you didn't like the fact that I wear glasses or something stupid like that, then we would have to first examine, hey, why do I have such a problem? Or why is it such a problem in my book with this person? Because a lot of times the issues that we see with other people may not in fact be an issue other than just on our end. So really the first avenue to address that problem is the avenue of self.
Yep. And the American Management Association gives 5 steps for that. It's define the conflict source, look beyond the incident. Uh, People will have different perspectives depending on their background.
Yep,
Request solutions from the people who are having the conflict. Hey, man, what do you think would fix this? What do you think would fix this? Uh, those perspectives, they feel wronged in some way, or they just don't like something the other person is doing. Uh, Find that middle ground between them and identify, and then suggest that as a solution after listening to both sides. And then at the end of it, make sure there's an agreement that they can both agree on in that middle ground area. Now, this is kind of simplistic when we're talking shift scenarios because number one, it's a high stress environment. It could be, hopefully not, but could be short on food, hot, sweaty, really cold. Someone made the fire too big and possibly gave away position, and the other person's just saying they're cold. There are so many scenarios in that to where you would have to find a middle ground and still keep everyone safe and working together.
right.
One thing,
Well, I think there's yep.
go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead.
Alrighty. Uh, One thing, like you said, personality conflicts. Knowing who you're surrounding yourself with, knowing the other participants in a group, tribe, family, what have you. Know their backgrounds, their politics, their religion, uh, their open mindedness, and the type
Right.
of personality they are. You mentioned type A personalities, very strong willed individuals. They're going to butt heads, especially in a high stress environment. Some people can't
Right.
handle stress as well as others. All of that comes into play.
Well, it sure does. And I think there's a difference between being a friend of somebody and knowing somebody, even if you know them well. There's a difference between being able to get along and knowing that person and being able to work together, and then being able to live with that person in a post issue scenario, no
Yep.
matter what that issue is. just living with people is entirely different than being cordial or knowing or associated with somebody, even if you're very close with that person.
Absolutely. Uh, Transparency is a lot of it. And when we're talking about operational security, with, say, an area, a bug out location, a farm, uh, any of that, transparency can only go so far, because that transparency that you would normally work with to help resolve conflicts becomes an impediment on security. And finding a fine balance between those can sometimes be
Right.
difficult depending on the situation. Uh,
Well, if
one
you can
other
find it
way,
at all, I mean,
right.
it may
And
come
that's
down to, like, say, post scenario, where you've got to develop some kind of a screening process or even a secondary location to vet somebody, before you even allow them to have access to your group.
absolutely. That's why it's important to vet everyone beforehand, because after, you're just inviting chaos.
Well, people are going to change, or most people will change between, what their life is now and then post scenario, um, because they haven't dealt with that situation before. I would say that, depending on the scenario, 90% of people have not dealt with something like that before, have not had that kind of an extreme lifestyle upset. So even those that and even those that you may have a great relationship with or whatever, may well, operate entirely different from what you expect.
Yeah. And sometimes those can lead to major issues that would hurt the survival of a group. And
Right.
knowing that beforehand is the best, to part on good ways, say you're going to do things much differently than I am. Go ahead, do your thing, we'll do our thing, and we can still get along if we run across each other.
Right.
We've got Big M in the green room. Big M, if you don't mind, go ahead and show your video real quick, just so I know it's you. I won't show it publicly. Just wave something.
Pick your nose.
Just a hand showing that you're wearing clothes.
Your clothes are appreciated.
Yeah. Well, okay. Um,
He may be having tech issues too.
Possibly. Uh, Post scenario. Now, I've done a little bit of reading on how different tribes, different groups throughout history have done it. And a lot of them fall back on religion and religious law, on how
Hmm.
to negotiate through conflicts. A lot of them, what it boiled down to, you have your mediators, maybe not assigned mediators, but ones that are normally good at being able to de escalate situations.
Right.
Uh, and at
You wouldn't want
times,
a,
well,
go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Yeah, you wouldn't want a proverbial Karen to be a mediator.
Right.
Somebody who's just going to cause drama and make the situation worse.
Hi, Big
But
M.
Hey
I
guys.
like that you're talking about, multiple mediators,
You can turn your
because it
video
may be an
off if you
issue,
want.
where one of the mediators has got a conflict of interest or something within that particular scenario.
Yeah. And in some cases, even assigning arbitrators that are close to the offended, or however you want to put it, from each
Hmm.
side, that can kind of be interpreters in a way. Because when you're angry and upset, you're not going to communicate to the fullest of your ability. So someone else that has a more level head at that point can step
Right.
in and say, uh, kind of explain the situation on both ends, and then you can help find a middle ground at that point. That's a good point, Badger. True neutral in Dungeons and Dragons speak. Uh, I've only played that game 3 times, and it's a lot. It's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
Um, one thing when you welcome Tank. One thing when you have multiple people, multiple personalities, hopefully not in one person. Uh,
It does happen.
it does happen. Already having a standard operating procedure just to handle this kind of thing would benefit any group.
Hmm.
Uh, Having rules, laws, boundaries in place. How do you not only find that middle ground, but if someone really was slighted, say one person stole from another inside your own group, which hopefully that would never happen, but you need to plan for that just in case. What are the rules and laws that you're going to have in place within that group for the person that was stolen from to be able to? I don't want to use some of the keywords that are being said in the news now, but almost like reparation of the theft.
Well, I mean, especially when you're talking about theft or something like that within a group of people you're supposed to trust, in a scenario when you cannot rely on society or the public in general to be there for you, even if it's, uh, a courtroom setting. Um, well, then that kind of a scenario, you're going to have to talk about something pretty severe, as far as punishments go. You can't just do the slap on the wrist, and I mean we've talked about before that you can't just hold somebody in prison who's not contributing to the group. I mean, so we talked about you know adding extra civic duties, if you will, chores or work, or even temporary expulsion from the group. But that carries with it its own dangers. Said party gets offended and goes to somebody else and brings them to bear on the group, or what have you. But I mean, that's kind of a fine line.
It is.
As
And sometimes there are hard choices that have to be made, and not discounting those. Some some people would opt to go straight to those hard choices to the strictest of punishments for even some of the smaller slights. I
hmm
say smaller, I mean something like theft. You wouldn't want to cut their hand off like they did in the old days because they can't help you with one hand, and plus
right.
infection, everything else set in, like we talked about with the medical side, uh, out of stream. That just in post scenario, that's not a survivable thing in most cases.
Well, even something like lashing or flogging wouldn't be advisable at that point, just for medical
Right.
reasons, with sepsis and things like that. But Julie makes some interesting points with
Yes.
uh, uh,
That's a lot to show up on the
avoidance,
screen.
accommodation, compromise, competition, collaboration. And then her final statement there was I think what we need to pay most attention to is that during all of these situations, the ways that we can kind of deal with the uncomfortabilities of somebody not getting along are difficult, but we need to be conscious and make an active choice, without making either party really a burden on the entire group or the community as a whole.
Right. And avoidance in a lot of cases to keep it from spiraling out of control.
Right.
That's one reason vetting beforehand is so important, because you know how people are going to handle, or you can expect at least some degree of how they're going to handle a situation
Right.
outside of outside of additional stresses post scenario, whatever that may be.
I'm a
I
big
get hot
fan of.
headed at times,
Yeah,
and
we
I
all
know
do,
some of
man.
my friends are. And when we have different ideals, even towards the same goal, we can butt heads over how to accomplish that goal. And that's not always the best. Good evening, NWA. How are you? And knowing that, like I said earlier, knowing that beforehand and being able to part ways amicably and say, okay, you can do things your way, I can do things my way. I wish you the best of luck.
Right.
And doing that beforehand not only makes a stronger unit with common goals, it makes a stronger unit with common methodologies towards those goals.
What do you think, Big M?
Well, I was just thinking that I would 100% agree with that. You know, if you take care of those problems up front, they don't become a bigger problem later on. And you know, we're talking a scenario of theft, which is, in my opinion, that's a once you break that trust, you know, it's
There's no
hard to
getting
get
it
it
back.
back.
Yep, absolutely.
Um, I,
Well, I
I
think,
would say I would say
yeah, go
that
ahead.
something else that would come into play, that wouldn't be quite as serious, because I think that theft or something like that's at the top of my list. I mean, I've got to be able to trust someone, and when you break that trust, you know, uh, I don't see anybody getting it back, unless it was just something that was out of the ordinary. But what I see is, you know, just difference in, you know, personalities. You know, we all know that religion and politics can create huge controversies, but sometimes just difference in personalities. One person just for some reason rubs the other person the wrong way, and that's where you need a group that would come together and say, hey, look, you know, what's the problem here, and do we see the same problem that you're seeing, or is this all, you know, something that you're imagining?
Right.
Absolutely. And going back to religion, not everyone will be the same religion in some groups. Not everyone will be the same. They won't have the same moral standards. And
Right.
watching out for that, some people operate more in the gray areas. Some people are truly black and white. This is wrong. This is wrong. Um, but this way is right. Finding that cohesion between everyone and being able to pick those people out, that can be the difference between life and death for that entire group. So knowing and picking those people beforehand is paramount to your survival.
Right.
Now, after society, and I'm talking a major collapse, not we're going to be without power for 3 months type situation.
No, this is total societal failure scenario.
Yes. What did they say, Teotwaki? The end of, I forget. It's been a long day.
What do
The
you mean?
Teotwaki, the end of all, the end of the world as we know it. Not
Yeah,
necessarily the world, but
just what
society.
we know. Yeah.
Right. Um, Another thing on religion, the one thing that stuck out of all of the religious laws that I've been reading over the past couple of days, the one thing that stuck out to me is not a faith that I follow closely or know much about. So for anyone out there, please accept my apology on my ignorance. The Star of David originally
Hmm.
apparently stood for if you have if you're internally strict, if you impose more rules on yourself, then it gives you more freedom. But the looser you are with your own standards, the less freedom you have. And that kind of stuck out to me.
Well, you find that in more than just the Israeli or Jewish society. Not necessarily the Star of David, but that precept of it's called Stoicism in Japan, um, of my personal self-discipline will allow me to hold myself to a higher standard and thereby above everybody else's standard. I'm not going to be liable to their laws or precepts.
Right. And I find that very harmonizing in a way.
For sure. I mean, self-discipline is going to be an absolute must.
So, as far as arbitrators, say you have not necessarily a theft situation, but one person believes another was getting more rations than they should, even though they brought. I mean, everyone's going off of their own stocks and whatnot. One person believes that they should all be shared throughout the group. One person shows up with maybe 3 months worth of food. Another person shows up with 3 years worth of food, and they're eating high on the hog every day. That could cause conflicts. So
Yeah, I mean
knowing
that
how, go ahead.
that's a little more difficult to deal with because then you're talking about the difference between socialism and personal freedoms. Uh,
Absolutely.
not just somebody's, oh hey, I'm offended, or so and so read me the wrong way, or he said that my green beans weren't tall enough, or whatever. Um, Now we're talking about the difference between personal freedoms, and really I think we've got to draw a line in the sand and say, if somebody's got something that you need, then rather than whine and complain and moan about it, then we need to come up with a system, an economic system, if you will, for me to be able to fill their need so that they can fulfill my need. I think that's a much better solution than, oh hey, I'm going to take all your stuff and redistribute it amongst the camp. Is
Right.
everybody is valuable in their own way and has got some way to contribute, whether that person is a doctor, or maybe they've got a hobby that really helps you out. Maybe they work with chainmail and you need chain for something, or you need what have you. There's all kinds of stuff out there. Everybody's got a marketable skill, uh, and it's just putting that skill to market after the economy and our society falls apart.
Absolutely. And NWA Prepper makes a perfect point on this. Knowing where everything stands beforehand.
Right.
If, say, one person has a lot of woodworking tools, one person has a lot of carpentry tools, and they need to get a job done, is it the groups or is it those people? I would
Well, the group
say it
doesn't
still belongs
necessarily
to
know how to
those,
implement those
exactly.
tools.
But the people who have them most likely do.
Right.
Not always. I have tools I have no idea how to use,
And then
but
that
I
brings
do
into
that.
question, is it right for that person to uh, keep their tools and their skill sets away from the group? Absolutely not.
Right.
And I
And
understand
as
there's going to be some problems, Tank, as far as working individually, but I mean, we can't lose our personal freedoms.
right, but there's a clear way to set that out in any group that is out here or anyone looking to form a group.
Yeah.
If everyone has their own ideas, their own tools, own items, know how to use them, and it's still theirs. But as far as being able to organize and say, hey, you've got uh, a saw that, or you've got a large two-person saw, can we use that to cut this tree down? That's really all it would take in most scenarios.
Right. Well, that's the problem that I have with the theft issue. Is in most scenarios, all it would take is somebody to ask, say, hey, we're hungry. Well, I
Yeah,
agree, Tank, that there is a problem when somebody else is hungry and you have plenty. And I'm not saying that it's a problem that we should ignore. I'm saying it's a problem that we need to take care in dealing with. Um, because I mean, who's to say that it all goes back to a moral argument? Okay, whose need is worth more? And you've got to understand that there's got to be an authority greater than each individual person in order to take care of that need. You know?
or have a system in place where something could be traded for something else,
Yeah.
predefined.
Or if there's nothing to trade, then hey, get me back later. Have a credit system. Um, and when it comes time to harvest, say you're a farmer or whatever, and you've got a harvest and you don't have enough workers, hey man, that basket of corn or whatever it was I gave you, hey, let's work that out now. Uh, I mean, they did it in the 30s.
Yeah,
I mean, what we're talking about is not far off from the Great Depression because the government was no help there.
NWA preppers 100% right there. Because not
Yeah.
everyone has the personality of the betterment of a group. Some people will look out for themselves primarily, and it's in some ways it's understandable because you can't help others if you're doing poorly yourself.
Well, if that's
And
the case, then make it a precept of joining the group that hey, everything is community property, uh,
but
rather
then
than
some people won't join a group that way.
you didn't need them. Because if you're looking, if they're joining your group is what's gonna to make it or break it, then I mean it's over already.
Right? That's kind of the point I was getting to, Tank. Know who they are before they join, before
Yeah.
you let them in. If they're not going to be team players, if they're going to sit through pre scenario, pre shift, and do nothing, then why bring them in afterward? Some people will have skills that are needed, and they may have zero preps. We've discussed
Right.
this a few times now. Knowing
Doctors,
that
nurses,
before, right?
who have you.
Knowing that beforehand and saying, okay, I have this person coming in, but they don't prep, but they have a huge skill set. I'm going to prep for them in trade for their skills.
Well, that skill set, I mean, you could look at that as a different avenue of prep, if you will. They prepped in this particular skill where, some of us have prepped in ammunition and firearms, some of us have prepped in food, some of us have prepped in fuel, or some of us have prepped in sustainability. It's just a different avenue of preparation.
Yeah, and agreed. And I think, as long as you have that in place, when you start out and you come in, then there shouldn't be a problem with it.
Right.
Right.
And Tank, I agree to a point. But if all it takes is one person to be able to prep for another individual, and then that other individual is taken care of, if they know beforehand that, hey, I'm
Hmm.
prepping for this person, other people could do the same thing. But really, that one person is benefiting the group by their preps for this person. So it all becomes
Well, the other thing
very soup like.
well, with that last comment, on the group footing the bill, there are some skills worth footing the bill for. Um, just honestly, I mean, you take an
I agree.
immunologist, for example, or something like that, and I mean, their expertise is invaluable. Well, I agree that there should be some sort of minimum if you're talking about a group, but we need to understand that the preparation is going to look different depending on who's joining. You know, everybody's got a different skill set, and there's got to be some kind of translation there. Now, am I saying a group of 36 doctors and nobody else is going to make it? Of course not. But if you have, you know, say two of everything, then you're fine.
Yep.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, I would say three of everything. Remember, one is none, two is one.
Well, I figured if you have two of everything, then y'all could gang up on the groups that are failing.
True.
I was joking, but yeah, that's kind of
It's a truth. It's not a comfortable one, but it is a truth.
well, and I mean that's kind of a harsh way to put it. As far as that goes, you go around and see the groups that are failing, and hey, they've got skills and utilities you need, and you just present them with, hey, y'all are not going to survive unless you do something, and then give them the option, you know, to do something.
Yeah.
But then that brings in the question, who am I bringing in my group? You know,
Yeah.
so it's kind of a circular ordeal.
Almost a figure eight if you look at it.
Yeah, kind of. It's like NASCAR. They're making a left turn.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh,
NWA Prepper makes a really good point there. There's a lot of
yeah.
groups that are failing right
He's been
now.
doing this a while. He knows his
Yeah.
stuff. Um, Badger, which group? The Arkansas Prepper Network is actually uh, a couple different groups. It's not just the network itself is a network, not a group per se. We used to be, but that exact scenario, what we're talking about tonight, is what caused that collapse. And
Hmm.
we've been fighting like crazy to get everyone back together. Everyone has their own groups. It's the cohesion that we're trying to get everyone to share information and to say, okay, okay, what are group minimums? Uh, that's going to vary depending on the group, really. Say everyone agrees that you're going to bring what tools you have, bring all of your own food. Your food is your food. Uh, your ammo is your ammo, but be able to use them for the benefit of the group. Have it written out and with a little bit more finesse and exact than I am explaining it because I haven't had enough sleep to think this through properly. But say you have a doctor come in, they've got maybe a week's worth of food with them. They just pulled everything out of their pantry. You have uh, a carpenter come in. They have all their tools. They have a little bit of supplies on to be able to build structures. Uh, in addition to what Muffin Man, your devices aren't hooked up. Uh, in addition to what they can scavenge from nearby, all of those would help out the group as a whole. Being able to barter within the group really does take precedence. Be able to build a small community, as as others have said in the past with tribes, that knowing your tribe, being able to work together, being able to share, those are all personality traits to look for whenever you're building your group, if you haven't already. And personality conflicts will arise. It's a matter of time. It will happen. And being able to work through those to the best of your ability is paramount. Let's see. An end group failsafe. Well, if everyone has their own beforehand, yours is yours, mine is mine, everyone splits that way. Uh, when together, say, hey, can I borrow this? Uh, Food stocks would be more of a trade item. Hey, you mind taking watch tonight? Uh, or here's this can of food. Would you mind taking watch tonight? Something like that can all be worked out as long as everyone agrees beforehand. If you go into it not knowing what you're doing beforehand, it's going to fall apart. Uh, I speak from experience. When the network was a group, we fell apart because we didn't have anything laid out. We even would bicker over how things were laid out.
Agreed. And if things got bad, then tension's going to be high already.
Yeah,
So the personality conflicts or whatever that might be around, say today, are going to be amplified many times when things start getting tough. More
the
things you
golden
have
ticket.
laid out up front, then the better off everyone's going to be, because you can say, hey, look, you knew what the rules and what the expectations were whenever you joined in and signed up. So we're just following protocol.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Uh, there are going to be personality issues that can cause a group to collapse. There are going to be disagreements, just simple disagreements that in a shift scenario, there's going to be too much passion behind each opinion, and that can split a group up. Then there'll
Agreed.
be factions of each one. That's an interesting aspect, Little Rose. What do you mean on how free the group members are? How free they are to come and go, or how free individually? Oh, I see what you're saying, Badger. Uh, Group stores, I am personally against because of that same situation. It's happened in prepper group after prepper group, country nationwide. Uh, I don't know if y'all remember the back when they did the Doomsday Preppers, the Haven that they talked about. There are still lawsuits going back and forth to this day over Haven, and I don't want to see anyone in Arkansas run into that kind of situation. Hey, send me, all this money to help stock your preps. Send me your firearms and ammunition. I'll store them here. At that point, you're putting trust and faith in someone that may not deserve it, number one, but number two, might come on hard times themselves and misappropriate some of that. I am a firm believer in keeping your own stocks to yourself. And when that time comes, everyone meet at your designated area and then can begin. Like I said, with tools, not everyone's going to have the same tools. Share. If you can't get people in a group that can share, they don't need to be in the group. I mean, I have neighbors that are backyard chemists, as I've explained before. I have let them borrow tools. I've actually got them back, surprisingly. But I didn't loan out a tool that I wasn't afraid to lose either. So that's one way of looking at it.
Exactly.
Free to trade on their own, freedom with. I'll just put this up here. Yes. Okay, I see what you're saying now, Little Rose. Uh, that's my belief as well. What's yours is yours. What's mine is mine. We can still work together with ours. We combine ours and benefit the group. You have ammo. I have what shoots the ammo, but you don't. I can throw you my rifle if you have ammo for it. I have another rifle. That's what prepping is for. Is being able to prep for those kinds of scenarios. Uh, I prep for me and others. I know others that prep for them and others. So, as being prepared isn't for being prepared for you and your family. It's also preparing for those situations to where you know someone might need something, but you can work out a trade. We always talk about barter items, the gold, the coins, the water. I mean, Tank, yes and no. If everyone's hungry, everyone's going to work together to get food. If one person's hungry, they might work harder to maybe get someone else's food, trading shifts on working the field or doing night watch, something like that. Well, then I would say that would be a bad person to barter with if you're going to take everything at one time. It's not self sustaining at that point. Yeah, and that's why you prep extra. Sorry, everyone, I'm talking with Tank in the chat. Uh, yeah, prep extra. I mean, you're going to have situations where someone's going to be hungry. They have a skill you can use. Trade for the skill. I mean, you're not going to get a week's worth of work out of one can of soup unless everyone's hungry, and then that one can of soup becomes very valuable. It's all micro markets. Muffin Man, where'd you go? That dang old country internet. And yes, they would get your food one way or another. They're either going to take it by force, or but most likely, if you know the people already, they're going to work for it, and you know that person well enough to know that they're honorable. Yes, they're hungry. I'm going to help that person out, and they can help me. But at the same time, and this is what also causes people to split in groups, is one person take, and then split. Knowing that type of personality beforehand is would be a good thing to know. Get to know your fellow preppers. Get to know people that are potentially going to be in your group intimately. Know everything you can about them. Will it work 100% of the time? No. Uh, Everything in life is about risk, and being able to calculate those risks and a little bit of faith in humanity can go a long way. Yes and no. I mean, if I'm making a beef stew and someone wants to throw in sardines, there's going to be conflict. That I don't agree with the throw it all in a pot method. It will work for a little while, but when you start getting between beans, sardines, and other things and throwing in a pot, uh, it's going to cause issues. But that's also where everyone's minimum should come in. Say your group has a 3 month minimum uh, buy in, or however you want to put it. I think that's too low to begin with, but for the scenario, say everyone has 3 months of buy in. That's 3 months of food, 3 months of water, what have you. At the end of that 3 months, someone still has 2 years worth of food. One person only stocked the 3 months. Is that going to cause a problem? Yeah. But knowing beforehand that that was the minimum and everyone agreed to that, that person then has that choice to either work for more or leave the group. And depending on how they leave in that scenario, that's where the hard choices have to be made. Yes, 100%. That's what happened with Haven, and one other one that I know of here in Arkansas has run into this issue as well. I think it was a fairly small one, small group, but that's why you have to know everyone, what their intentions are, why they do what they do. And Badger, you're right. Never show all your cards. Uh, and you guys are speaking of the Night Cut group, if I understand correctly. Um, avoid. Yeah. No, because at that point, Badger, that would cause more conflict because then you would be outing them, making yourself a target, which anyone on camera is already doing politically, but we can do more than worry about one group. Do I worry about that group? Yes. It would take a fool not to 100%, but being able to avoid and evade, I guess, would be the best way to put it. Yeah. NWA, you're on camera. People know who you are. People know who I am now. Some already did. But yeah, um, plus everyone knows where I am now just from the other streams. Fortunately, I don't have to worry about all of my preps being removed by force. And there are bad eggs. That's why it's best to leave those bad eggs on the nest. TP shortage? Yeah, I agree. NWA, you know about where I am. Anytime, brother. You can come down here. Oh, come on, Tank. You didn't get my message? You went to the wrong. Oh, you went to your server, not mine. And that's getaway or bug out locations. Those should be kept 100% private. Um, Never put those on a stream. Of course, you know that. I don't need to tell you.
What happened to
Tank,
the Muffin Man? He's not going to come back?
I don't know. Uh, I'm guessing his internet gave out on him. Tank, check Discord. Actually, I'll go ahead and share. Nope, wrong share. There we go. There we go. I was on the wrong window to pin it. Just gonna Sergeant Schultz everything. All right, I'll bite. That's a reference I'm not getting. Not like Captain America, who got it. Oh, okay. I get it now. And NWA, yeah, I worry for Northwest Arkansas. I really do. Just because of that one big group out of Nycut. Tank, is that you? Just flip on your camera and show me just a hand or something with clothes. I don't want to delete this video. Okay, I'll let you in now. Welcome, Tank.
Hey, can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm just driving. I'm getting ready, so I wasn't real sure.
So, what do you think on the pot versus not the pot?
I think everything, once the balloon goes up, everything needs to go in a pot. That way, there's no one person, you know, getting hungry and there's no temptation. Everything's for the group. Everybody's working for the group instead of for themselves. And then that's what I was saying. There needs to be an in-game uh, deal. Like once, say, you do run out of food, the whole group runs out of food. You got to have a okay, everybody split and everybody's on their own now, or whatever the group wants to decide, or they just sit there and everybody's hungry together.
Right, and at that point, that is
Because
when
it's not going to work when one person gets hungry or one person needs something. There's going to be conflict.
conflict, yes, but resolvable also, yes.
Well, that depends on the people, and things change when you get hungry.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I've been hungry before. I've survived on nothing but ramen before, and that's just because I was a po' boy,
I
and
called that in
my kids
college.
ate before I did. Uh, it's
Yeah.
it's tough, and still being able to hold on to your humanity. Those are the people that you need to bring into groups. People you know who know what hard times are.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah,
those
but you're going to be bringing in people that you don't even know
maybe,
afterwards.
maybe.
Well, you are. You're just going to keep going down until everybody else is grouped up bigger than you, and then
Well, and I mean,
That's
I kind of agree with what Tank's saying to a point too. Is you're going to be bringing in people because personally, I can't see seeing somebody in need and having the ability to help and not take care of that need. So I mean, you're going to be bringing in people. It may not be everybody, but you're going to be bringing in some people. I'm sure. Whether it's just kids or whether it's whoever. Um, and having some kind of a basic game plan or you know strategy put together for these situations, like Tank was saying, is a really good idea.
yeah,
Even if hey, what if the situation is, what are we going to do when we run out of sustainability? Because it may well happen. You know, what is our plan, our go to from there? Because that's going to cause a lot of conflict, and you know as well as I do, with as many avenues of workplaces we've had and different types of people we've dealt with, that having a plan to deal with these causes of conflict is just as important as how we deal with the conflict itself.
absolutely.
I think in a perfect world you would have a minimum, say, buy-in or amount of stuff that you need, or whatever the group decides. Say you need a year's worth of food to get in the group. Okay,
Right.
well, maybe somebody comes in, man, I'd like to be in a group. Don't have anything other than what I got in the pantry. Um, you know, lost my job, whatever. Don't have means to get it. If the group wants them in, okay, well, the group puts in and gets their buy-in. I'm not
Yep.
necessarily buy-in, but whatever is decided on.
Right.
What would you think, Tank, to like say an equatable transfer, I guess, like you say, a year's worth of food? I think that's a great baseline. But what do you think would equate to that as far as something other than food? Or would there even be something transfer? Is it always going to be food, or are we going to say, hey, such and such knowledge we can say is worth 6 months of food, or
That's
so
what I'm
much
saying.
of
If
right,
if that if the group wants that person for whatever they've got, whether it be just because they're family or because they're a surgeon or rocket scientist, whatever.
yeah,
If the group decides they want that person in, then they're saying that, all right, this person is worth us putting in for them, or possibly taking out of our own to put in for them.
Right.
and personally, I think a surgeon is worth about four rocket scientists in that scenario, just to let you know.
Well, a carpenter's going to be worth more. You're going to need a carpenter before you are a
Oh, for
surgeon,
sure.
hopefully.
Hopefully, you got both.
Well, that's the
Right.
deal. You're hoping you don't need a surgeon. You're going to need a carpenter
You're gonna need
or a
farmers too.
farmer or gardener, whatever.
Yeah.
But
That's just
also,
like
there are far
the
more carpenters than surgeons.
well, that's like the pew pew versus food deal. You're going to need food. You hope you don't need a pew pew.
Well, sometimes that pew pew is the means to get food.
Yeah, even a
That's
22.
that's how
Well,
I
I
fill
mean,
my freezer.
it's all relevant.
Yep.
But I just think if say everybody, say you have
I'll be back.
a 3 month food buy in. Okay, everybody's got the 3 months food, and then everybody's just going to have their own stuff. Okay, once the balloon goes up, everything goes in a pot. That way, there's no arguing, and then if everything doesn't, say the zombies never attack and somebody wants to leave, okay, your 3 months of food stays. All your other stuff goes with you because it hadn't been put in the pot yet. But
And
once the zombies come in, everything goes in a pot. That
You're
way,
just talking
everybody's for
food.
the group.
Yeah. Are you just
You
talking
know,
food or everything?
everything. There's going to be some people, somebody's going to have a lot more than others. It's just going to happen. But if everything's in a pot, then that one person that doesn't have much isn't tempted to get what he wants or needs.
Okay, so let me bring this scenario in the way you're describing. Say a surgeon comes in with their medical equipment, things like that. That becomes part of the pot. So someone else that does not know what they're doing with that damages it
No,
because they
it's
don't.
the group. The group says, "All right, we need this surgical equipment. We're not going to give it to Joe Blow over here who runs a hoe all day."
Right. Okay.
It's
But
group decisions. It's not, personal decisions. Then
right. Okay. So for everything that is done, everybody or the leadership within that group gets together and makes that decision on everything.
yeah, for the most part. I mean, you're going to have something. You're going to have axes and hoes and stuff that if somebody needs it, they go get it. But for some things, yeah, you're not going to let the kids run off with surgery equipment
Right.
and to play with, make mud pies with. I mean, that's just yeah,
So
it's got to be the group or nothing. You're either in a group or you're by yourself.
you don't believe in a group community where everyone has their own and would be willing to help others within that group because it's still bettering the group.
Until somebody gets hungry or somebody has a need for something. And then they're gonna look at it like, hey, my kids are hungry, I'm gonna do what I gotta do. And then that's gonna be problems in the group. If
So
everything's in a pile, then everybody gets hungry and everybody's taking it out on other things other than internally in the group.
right. I guess I could see that with food, but with equipment and tools, things like that, I, I don't I don't see it becoming communal property. I really don't agree with it on the food side of it, but I see your reasoning behind it, and it does have merit. I just believe that people can come together. One person have 3 or 4 years worth of food stockpiled, and with them, another person brings 3 or 6 months worth of food. I still believe there can be amicable trade there
And
within.
there can be until you don't have anything to trade or until it's down to when people are hurting. Say your surgeon's got his own whatever X medicine and he's saving that for his kid. Well, say your kid passes away because they needed that medicine. And then you find out later he had that medicine but was saving it for his own. That's going to be a problem.
To an extent, yeah, but we all know what we're getting into and what we're preparing for. Hopefully, that would be understood.
No, we don't
But
have a clue what we're getting into. Nobody does. That's the deal. That's what's going to change everybody. What's going to take your best buddy and turn him against you.
yeah, I
Unfortunately,
mean,
I think that's true.
yeah, I mean, I can see your points. Uh,
What you're saying works now.
Right.
I don't think it'll work when the zombies come.
Right. I don't know. Yeah, make a point. What about growing a communal garden? Would that not be an adequate pot? Say you go to a homestead, you help work the livestock and the garden, and that's where everyone meets. Everyone put in work towards that garden and raising the livestock. Would that be communal, or would that be the person who had the homestead originally?
Everything's communal once the zombies attack.
Okay.
That way, that one person can't say, "Well, this is my garden. I'm gonna take a better share," or "I'm not gonna give such and such old Joe over there a share because I don't think he put in enough." There's gonna be disagreements, and if everything's communal, then there's no disagreements. Put all the food in one pot, cook it, and everybody gets a scoop.
What if somebody gets 2 scoops?
Why? Why are you getting 2 scoops? It's communal.
It's a lot to
You
think
know,
about.
well, I've just, even something as simple as a pot of soup. One person may eat uh, one bowl and be plenty for them. The next person, it just barely touches his appetite, and he's needing to have
Everybody
another
gets
bowl.
everybody gets one scoop. If there's more left over, then whoever is hungry can go back and get another scoop. If there's none left over, then that person's hungry.
Hmm, definitely
So it
something
sounds
to think
fair
about.
enough.
But if you're taking my bowl of soup and I've got all this soup and you're hungry, and that happens more than once or twice, and you're not getting anything now because you're completely out, and I've still got food, then that's a problem. But if everybody's eating all the soup, then there's no argument about it. There's no soup left.
Well, then at that point, you can trade your extra bowl of soup for them taking your night shift.
I don't care to work the night shift. That doesn't help me out any.
Okay. Well, definitely something worth considering. I mean, I understand some things would have to be communal. I was thinking, gardening, things like that. The middle of the winter, people should be able to survive a full year at minimum with your preps, provided nothing else horrible goes wrong.
Well,
Which
okay.
Murphy's Law.
What happens when the rats get into your preps and eat all your stuff up for the winter?
Do you not prepare for rats?
I'm saying, what happens? You got to prepare for stuff. What happens when your stuff goes bad or whatever, and mine doesn't?
Right.
If it's all in a community deal and it all goes bad, then everybody's hungry. Everybody's going to help the group find some more food instead of saying, "Well, they've got food. Why don't they just give me some?" Or say it just part of the preps go bad. Everybody's still got some. It's not one person against the group. It doesn't. It's if everything's in one pot, you can't turn against the group.
That would be fine if everyone knows that going in.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure.
And that would definitely help you weed out people that would not comply with that.
Yeah, because if everything's individual, yeah, I'll join your group. I'm set. I don't have to worry about the rest of y'all.
Right.
I'll join the group till long as it benefits me. And then when people start getting hungry and it starts not benefiting me, I'm going to leave because I've got all my stuff.
But you don't have all the security that you would need, everything else that would come with a group.
No, but the group's starting to fall apart because some of them are hungry.
Yeah, we've got a regular.
I'm no fun. I can take anything apart.
It just sounds too communistic to me. I mean, yeah, Julie. Yeah, I kind of agree with her on that. Now, the concept, yeah, I can see.
And we're talking a group. We're not talking a whole, you know, once you've got all the zombies killed out and we're rebuilding, then you can start, okay, the group's working, everybody's doing good. Now I can start, say, I'm going to go over here and do my own thing, start rebuilding, whatever.
So you divvy everything out equally,
Well, at some point, you know, you're going to start expanding.
right?
And then that would have to be dealt with then. But, right when the zombies is attacking, everything's got to be in a pot till things start going good again. And then until you can start going out on your own, making a living on your own, I guess.
Do you not think that could happen after a year?
Yeah, it could.
I mean,
Ideally, the zombies attack and we get them all killed out in a year and everything starts opening back up and we can shake hands and say, all right, I'm gonna go move up to the lake. I know where there's a place up there. I'm gonna head out.
right?
Don't have to worry about the zombies anymore.
Okay. What would you think about everyone having a minimum 1 year of preps that are communal, and anything above that is individual?
That's fine until the zombies come in. And then everything has to go in a pot. Because as long as somebody's got more than somebody else, there's going to be a problem.
But
And
that
then
1 year
that
would
would be
start.
fine to start that way. And then that way, say nothing ever happens and you want to leave, you can leave your whatever, your buy-in, your 1 year of food, whatever. You can say, all right, I'm moving to a different state. I'm gonna have to get out of the group. And there's my 1 year stuff. I'm taking all my personal stuff with me. And no
So
big
it
deal.
stays communal no matter what.
The buy-in will, yeah.
Okay.
But you
That
could keep your
that's
personal stuff personal until something happens. That way you can leave without and only lose your buy-in.
that's one thing I really disagree with. Because if it's pre-collapse or whatever, that's still their stuff. The preps should only be applied during a collapse, not at any point before. That's why I don't
But that's
agree with
then
everybody
you
bringing
don't
stuff
have a
together.
buy-in. Then you can have people come in with absolutely nothing. And I think they need to have something just to show.
No, I mean having a buy-in is okay. I have my year worth of stuff for my buy-in. It's separate. When I show up, when the collapse happens or whatever, they have that 1 year of supplies right there in one crate or whatever. Say, this is my buy-in to get in. The rest of this is mine. At that point, that's where the buy-in should be applied rather than 5, 6 years beforehand. Because, like you said, storing something and not being there with it, you cannot watch over it. You can't keep the rats out. You can't prepare to keep that stuff safe.
Why would you not be able? You wherever it's going to be kept is where it's. I mean, you're going to have access to it to keep it up, so you can see, so everybody can see, so the community can see. All right, everybody's buy-ins is good, so the group is good for a year. If somebody gets to worrying about something, say, "Hey, I want to go check on my stuff the way I packed it. I'm not sure." Okay, well, let's go check it out. But the buy-in, I think, should stay. That gives you a reason to actually work for it instead of just saying, "Yeah, I'm in a group till I don't want to be, and then I'm out. Give me my stuff."
Yeah. Mm.
And it doesn't have to be a year. It could be a couple months of food. I'd say 3 months minimal.
Right. The the couple months, I mean, that would be an easy prep. I mean, really, per person, you could do 50 pounds of rice, 50 pounds of beans, and that lasts a single person quite a while. But, huh. All right. Definitely something worth considering. I'm sure we're going to debate this a little bit later in chat. But Big M, what say you?
Sorry about that. I'm trying to read the chats. I'm flipping back and forth, see what everybody else is chatting about. But yeah, I mean, I see pros and cons both ways. I do think there needs to be some skin in the game. A buy-in of some sort. Um, how you decide what that is. I'd hate to end up with 2,000 pounds of rice and nothing else. Um, but you know what I'm saying? Maybe uh, some kind of a list to go by of, hey, this is what you're gonna bring to the game, or if you don't want to do that, then you pay this much and we'll purchase it on your behalf and have it set up for you.
Yeah,
I
that's
think there's
definitely that. It could be.
yeah,
You could even say like, "All right, hey, Joe Blow wants in. Uh, doesn't have anything. Let's work together, and the group come out and chop some wood, and somebody will sell it, and we'll get his buy-in paid for, and in the pot, or what or like you said, big doctor comes in. All right, here's my money. Y'all go set me up, whatever. Or somebody comes in and say, all right, what I need? Okay, I need rice, beans, whatever, anti-zombie pills. Okay, there's my buy-in.
exactly.
And getting you bathing suit and go out and wash cars or whatever.
People would run from me.
Well, hey, charge them to get out.
There you
Yeah.
go. That's an idea.
Well, I think this has been a great discussion. Probably going to wrap it a little bit earlier tonight than normal. I have not had much sleep. It's going to be about the same next week. Try to wrap it fairly short. But definitely keep thinking about this. Uh, definitely want to talk with you a little bit more on this, Tank.
I figured.
No, no, not as a debate. I'm generally curious on how you came to this, because the more I'm putting together, some of it's starting to make sense. I don't like it, but it's starting to make sense, and that bothers me.
Yeah, I don't like it either. That's how I came to it.
Yeah. But
Well,
okay.
it kind of goes against everything that we do normally, and but nothing's normal at that point.
That's exactly it. That's nothing's going to be normal. Too many
Yeah.
unknowns to be leaving it to personal opinion.
Yeah. Like Julie said, I mean, I've always based all of my thoughts on group in a capitalistic way. And I thought that was the only way that would succeed, but I see. But you're also, we'll
That
talk about
works.
that more in chat.
That works if you're not fighting for your life.
Right.
Capitalism works as long as you don't have zombies attacking you.
That's where you need a team you can
That's
trust.
where you have to be the group.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, once you get all the zombies killed out or whatever, or the plague's over or whatever it is, then you can go back to capitalism. You can start that, but that's not something you can do in a emergency situation
True.
without problems.
It's understandable. Okay. Well, I guess we're going to end this for tonight. Thank everyone for coming. The chat. It's always appreciated. Anytime anyone needs to reach out, just give a shout. And happy prepping.
Y'all have a good